About Mongo today, and then we're going to actually dive into working with the Mongo shell. But basically, Mongo is a NoSQL database, and what it means, or what the difference, the really big difference is with SQL, SQL or MySQL, all of your tables and data have to be predefined, pre-structured. Okay, they have a blueprint, a scaffolding, and they're pre-structured, and only whatever the structure says goes in can go in. And that's not the case with Mongo. With Mongo, you can put in the database whatever you want. It's up to you to decide how your database comes together. What I mean is, you start off with a blank canvas, and whatever you insert or create becomes a collection. Okay, there's no set of rules saying I can enter this or I can't enter that. And if that doesn't make sense, or you've never worked with databases, that's okay. Just know that Mongo is a NoSQL database, and so NoSQL, and you can look that up online. Why use a NoSQL database to get some more information on it. But what's really cool about Mongo is it's very similar to JavaScript objects or JSON. Okay, if you see this format here, you've probably seen this before, right? This is like, oh, this is JSON, right? And it is actually under the hood. Your database is stored more or less using JavaScript objects and JSON, and it makes it really easy to be able to insert things and remove things. There's nothing new you have to. If you know JavaScript already and know JSON, MongoDB is like a breath of fresh air. You don't have to do anything different, which is really cool. And so this is an example on docs.mongodb.com/getting-started/shell/introduction. I recommend that you go through their introduction tutorials after you watch these videos and get more insights and learn more about it. But they work with documents. Okay, they're called documents. You're inserting a document into a collection, so you can have a collection of documents inside of your database. And a document might look like this, just like regular JSON: an address, street, zip code, building, coordinates. Okay, and the only real difference here that you've probably never seen before is this object ID, which is the default auto-generated ID that documents have when you create one. And so your ID is an object ID, and everything else is just whatever data you want to put in it. And you can create relationships, okay, by using object IDs and holding arrays of data. But it's not like in SQL, where you actually have to structure out relationships and structure out joins and things like that. This is all more or less JSON. And so if you want to hold an array, let's say you're a person and you have an array of addresses or places that you want to visit, you could have an actual array in that person document, and then inside the array would be a bunch of object IDs of the different addresses that you could reference, which is really cool and very, very simple. MongoDB is very, very simple to use. And so do go through this guide here when you have some time. And let's go ahead and dive on in and open up our shell. Okay, so using the terminal on Mac or PowerShell on Windows. Okay, we're going to go into the Mongo shell. And all you have to do is don't type MongoD this time. Okay, that runs the Mongo server. We actually want to go into the Mongo shell. So what we're going to do is we're going to type in Mongo. And notice how it's not doing anything right now. Okay, if you got this error, it's a good thing. And the reason is you don't have our server up and running yet. So on a new tab, don't ever do this on the tab you want to work on. Otherwise, you have to open a new one anyway. So on a new tab, we do our MongoD there. Okay, and now it says waiting for connections. Okay, so basically we're running a local server. It's running a local server, and I believe it's doing it via Node, and it's running a local server so you can basically go into the database. What I mean is pretend that like your computer is now acting as a server on port 27017 that can receive database connections and such. So now if we type in Mongo, okay, we're good to go. And notice how there's this little greater than sign here. That means we're ready to work with our database, which we don't have one yet, of course. And you may see this warning: soft limits too low, number of files is this, should be at least 1,000. You can research this error online, and there's some different things warning online, different things you can do to increase that. It's not necessary for right now, though. So what do we do? Well, the first thing you do is you need to have a database. So we can type in show DBS. That means show all the databases, okay? And these are two databases that I already have on my system here, which is kind of cool. So I've got an Apocalypse local, which is just a test database I work with on our own projects at DevSlopes, and we have a regular local database here. And what we can do is we can go into one of the databases. So I can go into Apocalypse Local by typing in use Apocalypse Local. And that means I'm now switched to that database and can start working with it. But of course, yours is empty, right? You don't have databases yet, so we don't want to do this. So what we actually want to do is create our own new database. And what we can do is just say use, and we're going to call this Learning Mongo. Now, if you're wondering, well, wait, where did we create that? Well, we didn't. Just this is what I'm telling you about. Unlike SQL, where you have to have everything pre-structured, with Mongo, things are created as you use them and as you need them. So just by switching to this database here, we're going to create it. Now, it doesn't actually exist yet until we insert a document into a collection. Okay, but we are using a new database, so we're going to need to do that. So how do we actually create a new collection? Well, let's talk about products, and we're going to be building an e-commerce type product here shortly. So let's say we've got a list of products. That's the name of the collection, and there's one or more records or documents inside that collection. So all we would need to do to create our very first product is type in DB. So we're referring to the current database, and then we want to say the name of the collection. So if we have a product, okay, we're going to say products with an S. Mongo adds S's at the end or pluralizes your words if they can be pluralized. So we're going to say db.products.insert. So we're going to insert a brand new product. And then what we're going to do, make this even a little bigger here. What we're going to do is insert a brand new product into this database. So we go ahead and do the opening parentheses, and then we're going to do, remember, we're going to write JSON really here in our terminal. So db.products.insert, and so we're going to say there's a product name. Again, this is just JSON, right? Keys and values. And the product name, let's say, is, Red Car. This is a toy store, okay? So product name, Red Car, and maybe we give it a price. So let's go ahead and put a comment in here and the price. And let's go ahead and say, $12.59. And that looks good there. And then let's put another comma, and let's say sell price. And then let's go ahead and put $5. Okay. Or 500, huh? We're getting a little, running out of screen space here. Okay, sell price, $5. And, oh, I see what it's doing here. It's giving us two lines here. It's just being weird. The terminal is being weird. Okay, so we're going to close it off with, we're going to try and close it off here. There we go. With a curly brace. So closing curly brace and closing parentheses. Okay, and it inserted it. Again, if you're seeing double here on yours, it's because the terminal is being weird when we resized it. So we inserted one product. So now check this out. If I type in show collections, we have a new collection called product. We never defined a file anywhere that says we have to have a products collection and this and that. It was created the moment we inserted a document, which is really cool. So products. So what if we want to get a list of all of our products? So db.products.find, the parentheses, because it's a function. And look at that. It found our product that we just created, okay? And if we wanted to look more like JSON, we can actually format it by doing db.products.find.pretty. And it'll actually make it look more like JSON. Okay, so this is really cool. We've now inserted a document into a collection called products, and we can, of course, insert another one if we want as well, too. So db.products.insert. And one more thing, notice how there's now an object ID, that auto-generated ID, as you can see right here. And the key for that is always, always, always underscore ID. Even in your code, you're going to write underscore. It's very important that you know that, okay? So we're going to insert another product, and the product name is going to be, let's say, blue car. And this one has a price of, let's say, $10.44. And let's say we don't put a sell price in here. Is it going to work if we do that? Sure enough, it is. Okay, and so again, like in SQL, you could specify, that the fields are required, and if you don't have it there, it can throw an error. Not so with Mongo, right? We can just put things in or not put things in, or Here's one of the dangerous sides of Mongo. What if I say db.products.insert, and then some lazy programmer, they're like, well, let's call it item name. Okay, they weren't paying attention, right? And then they say yellow car. What happens if we do this? It still inserts. So that's one of the downsides of Mongo is you got to be very careful with what you put in because you can put in bad information. So the good side is it's very easily accessible and you don't have to do all the setup. The bad side is if you're not properly structured, things can get messy. So let's go ahead and do a db.products.find.pretty. And notice how there's 3 products now. Okay, red car, blue car, and yellow car. Although the item name is different, so we've got a bad little situation here. Okay, but this is really cool, right? So we made some good progress. And so what have we talked about so far? We've talked about the Mongo shell. Okay, it basically gives you direct access to your database. Do you ever want to be interacting with your Mongo shell on a live database? Probably not. You probably want to use some type of application to interface with it, and you'll learn about that. We're going to work with Mongoose, which is basically an interface that you work with in JavaScript that talks to your database, and that's what does all the validation and protects your data. You don't ever really want to be working like we're working here, but you're just learning the basics, okay? And it's really good to explore and learn how to use Mongo just through the shell here. But in reality, your database is securely hidden somewhere, and then your app, whether it's a mobile app client talking to your API and the API is talking to your database or some type of interface like that. And so really good stuff here. We've also talked about inserting records or documents. They're called documents, inserting documents into collections. And we've done some finds and insertions, and we've also seen some of the downsides by, we got an item price or item name instead of product name, things like that. So that's it for now. More to come. Mark Price at DevSlopes.